Now, the Cricket World Cup is nearing its business end, and there is a bit of a last-minute scramble to put the name on the flight to Kolkata and Mumbai for the semi-finals. And Pakistan's inspiring win last night against Bangladesh achieved two things. They ensured that they still have an outside chance of making it to the semi-final, and they knocked out Bangladesh from the tournament. So before we look at certain qualification scenarios and what some of the top teams need to do to keep their semi-finals dreams alive, we need to throw a glance at the points table. Now, India is at the top there with 12 points, and they would realize now that this is where things get a little tricky. They have looked flawless in the World Cup so far, and they wouldn't want anything upsetting their rhythm at this crucial juncture. South Africa, New Zealand and Australia very much in the hunt for the semi-final berths, but it gets interesting with Pakistan and Afghanistan still breathing down their necks. Of course, the bottom four teams there are undoubtedly Sri Lanka, Netherlands, Bangladesh and England. Now, the key is to, of course, reach 14 points, that glorious number that obviously assures you of that semi-final berth. But getting there could prove to be tricky for some of the teams. Let's look at India first. Now, they look like the most comfortably placed side and the most impressive one in the World Cup by a mile. And with their next match against a team like Sri Lanka, with only one win away from sealing a semi-final spot, even though their challenge thereafter comes against South Africa, they will fancy their chances against Netherlands. So we have to look at Pakistan next, because their chances of qualifying for the top four rests a lot with India winning. Shaheen Shah Afridi is miraculously sitting at the top of the wicket-taker list despite having a very average tournament. And after the performance last night, and with the wave of fan support and sympathy coming for Babar Azam and his company, there seems to be a rejuvenated feel about this mercurial team. The rivalry will be kept aside as they will pray for India to keep its winning momentum going. But first, they will have to close out the remaining two matches they have lined up. And those are big encounters against New Zealand and a hurting England. That will get them 10 points, which ensures a shot at going through, but only if other teams stay at the same points or lesser. And we're talking about Kiwis and the Aussies here, who are ahead of Pakistan. So let's go across to those teams. Australia is looking solid all of a sudden. They have peaked at the right moment. Their lead spinner, Adam Zampa, sharing the top spot in the wicket-taker list with Shaheen Shah Afridi at 16 is key to their success. David Warner finally getting into the runs. So too Glenn Maxwell and Travis Head. Tonking 100 on return from injury has just meant that this Australian side is beginning to look like the dangerous one we know them to be. They enjoy playing under pressure, so they will look to get as close to the magic 14-figure mark as they can, which would mean wins against England, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. That would get them to 14. Now, speaking of New Zealand, they started off strong and though are still looking like a well-oiled machine, coming close to that massive run chase against the Aussies and faltering, the losses in the last few ought to hurt. This match today, of course, is critical, and some other teams will surely be cheering them on silently, because a win by the Kiwis keeps the equation open for another semi-final spot. And of course, holds off the red-hot South Africa that is in the second position for some more time. New Zealand next plays Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So while they need the wins to solidify their spot, they will also be keeping an eye out on the net run rate. I'll tell you why in just a bit. Moving on to Afghanistan, did you think that we would be discussing the possibility of this side being in contention for a top four spot? And deservedly so, going by the way they have performed against top teams in this tournament. Their batting has come of age and their bowling has backed them up nicely. Though they are sitting at 6 points, they will fancy their chances much like Pakistan, as both are in the very same boat. They will have to push to the magic number of 10. What are the matches coming up for them? Netherlands, a battle of the teams who have changed this World Cup around. And one match, Afghanistan will look to win and win big. And that's followed by two tough ones against Australia and South Africa, which leaves us with South Africa, who's looking like a gun side, with talks of a positive environment, teammates gelling together and having fun, and both departments, in fact all of the departments, firing. This is one team to watch out for. That is, if they manage to keep their cold feet that usually creeps up at the semi-finals at arm's length. With matches against India and Afghanistan coming up, they will want to make sure their qualification is not left till the very last moment for this very reason. Now, we caught up with some experts during the tournament at various stages to ask them their top 4 picks. Take a listen.
I got this question a couple of times in the lead up to the tournament. I think India at home always difficult. England still my favourites. I think they have revolutionised the 50-over game, and teams are now starting to catch up, but they're the pioneers of the way the game is now being played. Australia is always a threat in World Cups, and my head says Pakistan. I think they're good enough, but the heart says South Africa.
I think so far some of the great sides have shown us that sport is something which teaches us something new. I'm talking about Australia. I'm talking about someone like South Africa. Australia, they still trying to find their combination to make sure that they're back in action. Last game they won, but they're still trying to find themselves out. Same way, if you look at South Africa, they did fabulous job. They were really prepared for the subcontinent wickets, the way they played, the way they understood the conditions and used the ground to their advantage. I really like the way they have come so far. Saying that Afghanistan, they have been brilliant the way they played, and everybody who's been following, it's been outstanding. Saying that yes, India has done well. I don't want to talk too much about India because I'm really, really hoping that they reach the semifinals and from there on they go on to the final stage.
We know now that it's not easy for everyone to get the 7 wins. The 7 wins that guarantee you a place, in the team. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how India go. They look like a form team at the moment. Playing really well at home, and they look like the team out of everyone that's the most difficult to beat. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress through the tournament.
All right, I spoke about the magical number 10 on the points column. Why is that number crucial? With teams like England, Bangladesh, and a couple of others who form the bottom half of the points table, there is always a chance of them spoiling the party for certain sides placed at the top half, who are desperately looking for that one win to seal things for them. And with that possibility very much on the cards, there may come a situation where we could find 3 or more teams tied with 10 points, which may mean a battle of the net run rate. So the voice of reason at this race for the semi-finals: win, and win big.